We've all seen the stories. Border Patrol, overwhelmed. American cities, stretched to their financial limits. The southern border, out of control. There's a reason that so many people these days are referring to it as the border crisis. And that's not quite right. Because it's about 10 different crises. I mean, you didn't think this one was going to be easy, did you? America is a nation of immigrants. Kinda. While the U.S. has historically been much more open to newcomers than other nations, throughout our history, we've also teetered back and forth on the question of just how many immigrants the country should take in. Americans have passionate views on both sides of that issue, but what makes today's situation at the southern border so different from immigration debates of the past is that this time, our views don't really factor in. Millions of people are arriving at our southern border not because we've chosen to let them in after a prolonged debate, but because we've lost control of the situation. After all, people from both political parties have said the border is broken, but none of them seem able to fix it. So what's going on here? If pretty much everyone agrees there's a problem, why can't we seem to do anything about it? Let's start with the basics. Even under the best case scenario, controlling the border isn't easy. At nearly 2,000 miles, the border between the US and Mexico is one of the longest in the world. It's the biggest intersection of a wealthy country and a poor country anywhere on the planet. And it's also the world's busiest border, with around 1 million people and $1.5 billion worth of goods crossing every day. And that's why this problem isn't exactly new. For decades, hundreds of thousands of people a year, and in the worst years over 1 million, have attempted to cross the border illegally. What is new, however, is the sheer number of people coming, and who they are. In 2019, before the pandemic led to a steep drop-off in immigration, the Border Patrol encountered over 850,000 people trying to come through illegally. And that seemed like a lot at the time, more than the country had seen in a dozen years. But by 2023, the number had reached over 2 million. The kinds of migrants coming have changed too. Up until recently, illegal border crossings were mostly attempted by individual adults. In recent years, however, there's been a significant uptick in the number of families attempting to cross, and the number of unaccompanied minors. There's also been a shift in where people are coming from. Historically, illegal border crossings were dominated by individuals from Mexico. Then, about a decade ago, citizens from Central America's Northern Triangle, El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras, became the majority. These days, not only are there huge spikes from elsewhere in Latin America, but there are eye-popping numbers coming from the other side of the world. In 2023, there were nearly 25,000 encounters with people from China at the southern border, over 40,000 with people from India, and almost 60,000 with people from Africa. And these shifting trends in who's coming are also a big part of the reason that the whole process is now so chaotic. Our policies at the southern border were designed for an era in which the majority of attempted crossings were individuals coming from Mexico. Catch someone coming in illegally in that situation, and you can just turn them around and send them back. But that requires a diplomatic agreement with the country you're sending them back to, which we don't have with, for instance, India. And this is where this all starts to get really, really complicated, and probably a little surprising. When most of us think about people trying to come to the US through Mexico, we likely think of individuals trying to sneak over the border undetected. But that view is largely outdated. While those kinds of unauthorized entries were a huge problem in the early 2000s, better border control saw them collapse in the years that followed. Now, those numbers are going back up in recent years, but that's largely because the Border Patrol is preoccupied dealing with the people who are trying to get caught. One of the pillars of American immigration law is asylum status, the country's willingness to take in people who could face persecution in their home country. It's a policy reflective of America's deepest values, and it's also a big part of the problem here. Many of the migrants showing up at the border without permission claim asylum status as their ticket into the U.S., more than 800,000 of them in the 2023 fiscal year alone. But figuring out whether or not they actually qualify for asylum is a long and complicated legal process. And given the sheer volume of people coming in these days, we've basically lost the ability to do it effectively. Asylum cases are decided by immigration judges. The country has around 650 of them, and as of 2023, they had a backlog of over 2 million cases. As a result, many asylum applicants are released into the country to await their day in court, which is often years in the future. As of the spring of 2023, the wait in cities like Los Angeles or Chicago was 4 years. In New York City, it was 10. And that might not be that big a problem if most of these asylum claims panned out. But in recent years, immigration courts have granted asylum in only about 15% of those cases. Now, it may seem obvious that we just need to turn more of the most clearly bogus asylum cases away at the border, but who's going to do it? Between 2018 and 2023, the number of migrant encounters at the southern border went up by over 400%. Meanwhile, the number of Border Patrol agents handling those encounters declined. All of which puts things into perspective a bit. After all, there are lots of important debates about immigration policy. How many people should we let in? Based on what standard? But until we regain control of the border, we can't do anything meaningful about any of those questions. So, the debate these days isn't really about what kind of immigration policy we should have. It's about whether we have any immigration policy at all.